Jeanette here with Untamed and Unapologetic. Today we have the beautiful Alyssa with us. So I've known Alyssa for, how long have we known each other now?
It's been a few years, right?
Couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we met at this, was it
It was the meetup group.
So I used to do this meetup group with counselors, and that's how I met Alyssa. And now I don't even do the meetup group anymore. It's gotten so crazy with life and everything. But you are one of the people that I'm so happy that stuck around in my circle.
Yeah, I remember when I met you, I was like, oh, I'll be honest with you, I was like, I'm going to go to these networking meetings. And then I got there and I was like, oh, this is different. I like this. It was really nice. I'm glad I braved and went out there.
Yeah, I'm a little different. People have said that before. I don't know if it's a good or a bad way, but it always to each their own, right? I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
Well, I loved it because it didn't feel like I was sitting there with people just passing out cards. People were actually talking and having genuine conversation, not just like 5,000 elevator speeches.
Exactly. That's what I like. That's what I love about this podcast. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and we'll kind of just go from there.
Again, Alyssa Cedillo. I am the practice owner of True Life Counseling Center here in San Antonio, and as well as our nonprofit Root of It Foundation. That was an entire whole transformation, starting business, running business, being very mission aligned, learning a lot along the process. And then the name of a practice that I'm very proud of and excited about. That we really do focus on working with intentionally and historically marginalized identities. So, a lot of women that come through our doors and that we work with. And so it's been a really beautiful journey, and I have an amazing team that I think we were talking about running businesses and being independent and empowerment. I think sometimes we kind of get stuck in this idea of like, I have to do everything on my own. But for me, yes, I did that a long time and I still do. But having a really amazing team that I trust around me and like, really being cautious and mindful about who works with me has just made life much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about us believing that we have to do it all ourselves. Why is that like a woman thing? Because I used to be the exact same way.
Yeah, I think part of it is a societal thing. It's a systemic issue, and part of it is cultural wounding. Like for so many of us, we were told the changing roles, and women need to be this and be that, and be this and be that. And so we then sometimes we talk about it like internalized oppression, like the society doesn't even need to do it for us anymore.
Pause for 1 second because I accidentally turned on this thing down here. It keeps on talking to me, and I don't know what I did.
I didn't hear this. What is that?
It's like a speaker. I was like, why is this thing talking to me? Sorry.
Are we
Okay.
going in the right direction though?
Huh?
I assume we're going in the right direction though.
Yeah. No, we're great. But tell me a little bit more about why, as a woman, we feel that we have to do it all on our own.
Yeah. Well, to start off with patriarchy, that's the biggest one. But we're always told that what we do and how we do it and what we're going to do things with our bodies are policed, how we use our time and energy are policed. And I think part of it is removing it from being something like wrong with us or a deficit in us, but also something rather considered it more as our cultural wounding that we have just continually been reinforced with these ideas that you need to be a mother and a businesswoman and a cook and a cleaner and everything else, when the truth is that we have never and will never really do it alone. We need community, we need connection, we need, and for me, like other mujeres, so they're women who, help me, catch me when I'm doing that. I gotta go, and be like, hey girl, stop, when I don't catch it for myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I found like my own journey, like going through this, just like when you were saying, like we're supposed to be mothers, we're supposed to like raise the kids, raise the husband, right? Like clean, cook, do all the things. And I remember a time when I was 25 and I used to believe that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't married. I didn't have children. I mean, my sister was married when she was 25. She had babies at 26. Like, what was wrong with me? You know?
Yep. It's much easier, and I just call it systems of oppression because there's so much of it, right? But it's much easier for the system to make us believe that there's something wrong with us and there's something deficit in us, rather than the reality of the matter that they've required us and asked us for so long to be everything in all things and to never complain. To never ask for more, to never ask for assistance. And so the reality is we're living in a world where societally we need to change. We need to change our constructs. We need to change the way we think about things. We need to change the way we approach stuff. We need to change systems in general. But that won't happen if, as a society, as a collective, we continue to say that we're the problem versus there's a broken system.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just really sad to know. Like, all of us were brought up into this world where we're born thinking that there's something wrong with us.
And then told that, right? Like when we're in school, why can't you get your assignments done? Well, you have a job. Why are you working? Right? Why can't you do this? Why can't you attend every parent conference? Right? And
Mhm.
so it really is hard, but
Yeah.
part of it starts with pushing back.
Exactly. And there was this one situation that happened at my son's school the other day. And it's a mom, like she's a stay at home mom, which is wonderful. I think that's beautiful. Like she told my mom, "Oh, it's so great that your daughter is always able to come to all of her son's things. You don't see a lot of parents here." And I was like, yeah, because she
Yeah.
knows I work. She knows I think they follow me on social media, right? So they
hmm
know I'm doing all these things, but I always make it a point to show up.
Yeah. And I think that's also part of it too. When you're sometimes when we choose to be in business or we choose to be forward facing, we lose a bit of anonymity sometimes. And
Mhm.
so it's a little harder to say no. It's a little harder to be like, I can't do it. And so it's kind of, for me, it's always been about finding that balance. And I get it wrong a lot. Finding that balance and knowing what my tells are. When I notice myself waking up and being like, I have to do this. I don't want to do this. I know if I catch myself not being excited about what I'm doing anymore, it's
Mhm.
my body's way of telling me like, hey, pay attention. Maybe we've overcommitted in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that, to slow down. Sometimes we need our friends to tell us something.
Exactly. And I love that you talked earlier about community. Like, I think that's one thing we take for granted: friendships, community, sisterhood, having somebody there to support you and uplift you. Because we come, again, like from what we were talking about, we come from like, I can do this. Like, I don't need help. If I tell them, they might hurt me. Or if they know what I'm doing, they might steal it from me. So
hmm
we stay away and we isolate ourselves.
Yeah, that's actually something I was talking about with a friend a couple weeks ago, that it was difficult for me for a while to engage with other women. And a big portion was it was wounding that as I was growing up, that we've been told a lot of times to compete with each other, that to tear each other down. And so there was a lot of toxic, right? And it became that for a while there when I was younger, I was like, I'm not dealing with this. Most of my acquaintances were male acquaintances, or even my friends that were femme. They were just, I'd known them for so long, and it was difficult
Mhm.
until I had to really come to the conclusion that yes, that happens within our communities, but spaces like this, like what we're doing right now, when we're having conversation and being real and genuine with each other, that creates some healing so that we can have community. And I just have an amazing group of femme presenting identities and women that just have really showed up for me, especially in the last, couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that for some reason too, like just recently in the last couple of years, like I've found this group of people. And I think it's also very important that we all align with each other, because we can't just like have a friend that has always been there, or because they may not align with our mission, with what we're doing in business, with what we're doing in our personal lives. Like, not everybody has children that's going to understand that I have a child, right?
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, right? Like finding the people that are aligned with you. And I think sometimes we can confuse things with like being in alignment and being in agreement. Sometimes there's people that I have that I love dearly, and they're women that the way they go about it is not how I would, and not necessarily how I would like to do it. But they're my comrades because we don't have to do everything the same way, but we do have to be in the same mission, the same agenda, the same direction. And I think in the last few years, we just noticed with the changing landscape, or the more intensified landscape lately, that we have to be more selective and discerning about who we bring into our inner circle. And we can be open and willing, but I choose not to engage with individuals and bring them within my comunidad when the behaviors that they're engaging in and promoting cause harm to my community. And so there's so many amazing women that I've seen within the last couple of years that have been more vocal when they usually weren't, more direct, more outspoken. And when you see women doing that together and taking care of each other, it's just transformative in comparison to some of the, ugly things that we see sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful to see when we can all gather of like minds and actually build and uplift each other.
Yeah, and it's so cool because I wouldn't do something in a certain way That doesn't mean it's not awesome. It's great when I have somebody else who comes up with an idea because I'm sure you know, like when you're in a business, you're always the idea person. You're always
Yeah.
the one executing. You're always so much. So to have somebody else be like, I got an idea, I'm passionate about it. Let's work on getting this to happen together. Just again, it just makes life so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I love it. Now, what would you say to a woman who's listening to this, right? And they're one of those women that were once like us, hidden, we were protecting ourselves, that don't know how to like get out into the world, but they know that they're missing something. Like, what would you tell that woman? Like, how could they get their feet wet? And Barrington,
I was not before I started.
my gosh,
Hi, Barrington.
this is going to be the greatest podcast in the world, interrupted by my 5-year-old.
Hey, I like your ass.
Oh my goodness. Now we're gonna have to start all over. Hold on, Alyssa. Let me make sure he
No
got
worries.
my parents over there. Good thing that we can take out pieces. Or maybe we should leave that piece in there. It'll be like very like real.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Alyssa.
Don't worry about it. We started early for a reason.
I'm like, I don't know why we came over here. I told the woman I'd have to work until a certain time.
Because
And he's
that's what
over
it's
there
like.
crying. But no, I said,
Our poor babe.
this is actually pretty good because we can talk about the differences between moms and dads, right? When I have to work, he's always in my business. Like he'll come in during a counseling session, he'll pop in, and like there's no boundaries when it comes to that in him. But I just asked him right now, I was like, would you do that to your dad if he was in a meeting? No, but he'll do it here all the time.
Yeah. Why there's all these different expectations for women?
I know. I mean, we can keep on going from that perspective, right? There's so many different expectations. Like the woman always has to be available. We always have to be there for them. Like, and even our kids. Like, I asked him. I was like, "Would you do that with your dad?" No. Well, then why are you doing it with your mom?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's maddening, right? And I think sometimes even like the different expectations, even professionally, sometimes. Like I know that I applied for a job one time. I walked out, but I applied for a job one time, and the woman interviewing me looked at me, and it just so happened I was sitting there, and she looked down at my hands, and she literally told me, "This is a woman doing this to another woman." Looked at me and said, "Well, you don't have a family, so you're just gonna do what I tell you to when I tell you."
Oh no.
They're mental health professionals too, right? So I'm sitting there like, "Excuse me?" She had the balls to repeat herself. I'm like, well, just because I don't have a ring on my finger doesn't mean I don't have family. I have a mother and a father and a sister and nieces and nephews. You know, what does that have to do with anything? And it's this kind of concept that as women, if your child's free, you're availability all the time, right? Or if you have a child, then that your child should never make a peep or be involved in any kind of choices. Like, excuse me? Like, you're a living, breathing human being, and so is your child, that things will change. Like, even when we do training, there are sometimes where, like, forceful not allow your camera to be off or allow if a child is in the room. I'm like, people, they have their headphones on, they're listening into a training. Why can't we make accommodations? And I wouldn't even call it accommodations that feels icky, but like, why can't we be understanding that people have different needs? If there's children, I'm laughing because for me, I used to have to tell everybody in my informed consent when they would see me. And this is exactly what I would say, to be honest. So there's no one in this space. I have headphones on, but you may hear something like a grown ass man banging on the walls every once in a while. It's not anybody here, but my dog decides that he wants to be in the room sometimes, and there's not a whole lot about I can do.
I love that you say that though. A lot of times, like even now, like I wasn't expecting them to come home, but they did. But you know I have a child. And that with children, it's always unpredictable.
Yeah, and I feel like we forget that like over the last few years, we've all been in stuff, but like we've all been operating, whether we want to admit it or not, on a higher level of stress. And that means sometimes we forget things, or we're a little bit late, or we hit the snooze button one more time, and we can understand that we're people.
Mhm.
And I think when we talk about women, that's another thing. You think you asked earlier, like, how would you invite somebody into stepping out of maybe some of their comfort zone? And I'll just tell you what I did. People tend to think that I'm very always outspoken, and I tend to be. But the reality of the matter is, it's not because I always want to speak. It's that you have engaged in behaviors that's so fucked upery We might bleep that out, but you've
Yeah.
engaged in behaviors that are so ridiculous that now you're requiring me to speak up and say something. I would rather be a wallflower, you know? So I think first having some compassion for self that like it is normal to be afraid, to feel overwhelmed, to feel uncomfortable, and start with that because sometimes we can shame and judge ourselves so much in an effort to try to change. But there is never in the history of anywhere been that you shame yourself into wellness.
Exactly.
It's not a thing.
No.
And so I think the foundation is having compassion for self and also remembering to have compassion for others too. That maybe our meeting got a little interrupted because a kiddo ran in. I got to see a cool man, right?
Exactly.
Maybe my cat. I had this happen one time. My cat knocked a candle over in the middle of me having a meeting, and my curtain's on fire.
Oh my
Right? I'm like, oh my gosh. Right?
God.
So I think if we're really realistic about the demands that we have to face every day, like as a family member, as a community member, as in our careers, that if you can start having some compassion for that and reality check about that, then it can make it a lot easier to be able to see the humanity in others and be around them.
So to give ourselves grace.
Yeah, and I say it is like approaching yourself with kindness and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
um, I didn't really know the difference sometimes. It was that I remember saying, well, I do this and I do that, and I'm running here, and my own therapist called me out. It was like, how is that compassionate? And I'm like, well, she's like, do you understand what that means? And we're like, when you're tired, you sit. I have a bad back and I had back surgery. Why are you standing up that whole time? You wouldn't just grab a chair and sit down? I'm like, well, everybody else is standing. Everybody else have back surgery.
No.
No. And I think that if we can be compassionate with ourselves enough that we can recognize the areas in which we can start granting ourselves permission to
Mhm.
engage differently.
And to be human. Like there's nothing that you have to hide. Even in a lot of us therapists, right? We're both therapists. I could have a lot of therapists that are like, there was one that I saw recently, and she was like, I get this pain in my hip from sitting all day long. How do y'all manage that? And I'm like, I got a foam roller. I told my client, I got to roll this out real quick because if not, I'm not even going to be able to pay attention to you.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We were taught such ridiculous ways of being mental health providers that I'm going to talk to somebody about meeting their needs, being compassionate with themselves, and no, but not do it for ourselves.
What about us? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for myself, sometimes I've gotten a lot better about it, right? But
Mhm.
there was a while there where I am the t-shirt wearing marcher. I am the one that's talking, I'm out there in the world, right? But I would forget sometimes that on my fervent desire to, advocate for community, that I am also community. I get to be included in that compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
hard.
I love that. I love that. So you would tell the woman to give herself some compassion. Is there anything else that you would tell her if she's afraid to step
Oh,
out?
100 things. I think there's that because sometimes we can see other people as scary or inhuman or whatever narrative that we have, probably based on some realities that have happened in life. But other than that, I think that it really does mean that people like to read books and all these things and then be like, I'm going to do this. It takes action. And so even if that means that you don't even have to talk to another human, but it requires you to try to be around other humans to start tempering our body so we can receive. And so that may mean if it's too scary to talk to somebody, you go to a coffee shop. Sit down there and do some work, read a book, whatever it is, but just begin to be around people. Take your dog for a walk. You don't have to talk to anybody, but take your dog for a walk. But start to put yourself in positions where you're around other people because we can start creating this narrative in our brain that is so big and so loud that people are dangerous, that people are bad, that their inherent is that. Are there people like that in the world? Yes, there is. Is that the majority of what you engage in or you run into when you come with the intention of being open? Not so much. If we can get to the place where we're not just around people but engaging with people, find communities that are like minded. And I'll just be very clear, like minded that aren't spewing hatred. Okay?
I think that's really important that you said that, like minded, but not spewing hatred, because there's a lot of like minded people in our community, in our world, that may have the same mission, position as you, but they may be bad talking somebody else behind their
Mm-hmm.
back. And is that the type of person that you want to surround yourself with?
Exactly. And you know what? People show you who they are. Believe them. The amount of mental gymnastics that we will go through to convince ourselves that, Susie over there is the nicest human being in the whole world, when we've watched her smile in someone's face and then tell us something, when we've watched them misappropriate funds, we've watched all these things happen, like, believe them. And we don't have to put ourselves in positions to be around people that are going to cause us harm.
Yeah, and I also feel like a lot of us women, like, will kind of hold a blind eye to it. Like, oh, well, maybe that's just one time, right? They're actually a really cool person. But it's we have to remind ourselves that it's not just that one time. If they can do it that one time, imagine what they're saying about you when you're not there.
Yep. This is totally a meme from social media that I saw one time. I can't remember the exact words, but it was like, don't tell me what people are saying about me behind my back. Tell me why they feel so comfortable telling you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
People that are loyal and I feel like loyal isn't the right word, but people who are authentic and honest, they don't have time to put up with hearing somebody sit there tear someone else down. They can see with their own eyes. So yeah, it's about exercising and learning discernment and really believing what is being told to you. If someone is saying, talking about other people, saying things behind their back, that's not somebody you want to be around. I know that when I am running my business, that there was a while there where there were some people that I recognized that anytime I had an idea or I was going to do something, they, rather than being excited for me and being like, we're going to figure this out, it was all of their own fears and insecurities were placed upon me. Well, what if it doesn't work? Well, what if this? What if that? What if it? I don't need people around to naysay. Be realistic and tell me if I'm doing something wild, but I don't need naysayers. There's enough of those in the world. I need someone who's going to be like, let's figure it out together.
Let's support, let's uplift. Like, what do you need from me? That sounds
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That sounds like something that's going to be incredible. So, what do you need from me? How can I support you?
Yeah.
Not Alyssa. That sounds a little crazy.
It does. Let's do it anyway.
Yeah, let's jump.
I also think that a big part of it is that I didn't really recognize, or if I did, my own BS. But I have made a lot of connections with people. And I say connections, a lot of people think about like networking meetings, right? But genuine, authentic human connections don't always happen there. Part of the people that are with my team, like we do with my team, right? They're not all therapists. Your colleagues aren't just therapists. It's, the photographer, the website designer, someone who, helps me do my scheduling and my calling and putting things back. It's our community, our colleagues sometimes will find them in these, very curated environments. But that's not reality. People are there selling something or putting a marketing face on. And so that may require you some time to go to things like a coffee thing, right? I don't know if I can curse on here, but there's an event called Fucked Up Nights, and I spoke at it. And what it is which I think, it's something you can find online. They're in every city. I had never heard of them, but Fucked Up Nights was literally business owners who went and they stand on stage for the community to come out for free. And you talk about all the things you did that you fucked up in your business.
I got, I got,
Girl, I had a whole thing going. But it was like all the things that you've done in your business that you mess up in, and that you're giving this information freely, a divestiture of knowledge, so that other people don't run into the same mistake you did, or at least have some guidance. These are the communities you want to go to.
yeah.
People who are there to support you, people who are there that encourage you, people who are there because they're inspired by your story.
Yeah, and that I think took me the longest time to actually find because I thought I had to only be within this little counselor people community, right? Like, oh, I got to befriend that one because she's doing cool things. I got to know that one because she's doing other cool things. But then not all of them are on the same mission as me, just like they're not on the same mission as you. Sometimes we might start talking and they get scared. Like, if you start talking,
Mm-hmm.
person next to you is getting scared, that person doesn't need to be next to you.
Yeah, and you don't need, and we have a moment where we're unsure. If we're having somebody there to help rely on, they need to be relied,
Yeah.
right? I have many people that I love dearly, but I wouldn't do business with them because they're never on time and they never show up. But they're like, yeah, it's something like you can love people and be friends with them and support them in other ways. Do they constantly text me and email me and take and give me words of affirmation? But do I count on them to be at an 8 a.m. thing? No, I'm not. Right?
Mm-mm. And that took me so long to find like groups of people. And I've got a lot of groups. Like I don't just have like this is my people and this is all I have. Like I have my core, like ride or dies. Like if I'm dying, I'm
Like
gonna
your
call my friend
go-tos.
up and she's gonna show up. Like it doesn't matter what she's doing, she's gonna drop it and show up. So I've got people like that. I've got my family, right? I have the counselors who are very untamed and unapologetic, like yourself and me, that we're going to meet up and we're going to talk about certain things. And I've got other people that aren't even therapists, but that do great, awesome things. So I
And
don't know
you're
about
not
you, but
afraid to talk in front of them either. Like it feels comfortable to have conversations that you're not worried and censoring yourself about.
yes, that's so important because if you feel like you can't be yourself with your groups of people, you're amongst the wrong people.
Yeah, and there's a cost. There's a cost to having to hide yourself and hide who
Mhm.
you are. Silence is painful, whether it's that you're required to be silent because the other person is uncomfortable with what you have to say, or that you spoke up and said something and you were met with silence.
Mhm.
It eats away at you. So why put ourselves in a position where we're around people that we can't be our true self?
Yeah, it's not fair to us.
Yeah. And then who are we, right? I know that for a long time in the mental health field, there's a lot of interesting things that go on that you know. But for a long time in professional care, I was me, but I hid a lot of things. Like oh good God, I would refuse to hang out with any kind of therapist in any way, shape, or form as a friend. Like you're not, I'm not talking to you outside of office hours. Like you're not on my social. It was a little like to the point where like I don't even need you to know my name. Right? Because I had seen therapists, we can be the nicest people to the community. But a lot of times, in my experience, therapists are very nasty and ugly to each other. And it's because they put us in a position to compete against each other rather than to support each other.
And that's something that I know you, as well as myself, we are trying to break that community out of that because
Mhm.
there are plenty of people in our world that need our help. And not everyone is going to connect with me or connect with you
Yeah.
or anybody else.
I have a network of people that I have, and we keep like people that we know because if someone's asking for a referral, I'm not going to send them to someone I never met, right? But I didn't actually recognize how many people that I knew and was connected with. But I'm gonna tell you what, when stuff goes down in the neighborhood, with the community, when stuff happens, within the mental health field, with the larger landscape, I know that in the last few years, I've immediately been like, oh, I know I can call Jeanette for this. She knows the answer to this. She knows how to take care of this. I can refer them to her. I know somebody else who does, California that does psychedelic assisted therapy, like all these different things. Like we don't have to be so small-minded and in the communities in which we engage, even if they're not therapists or they don't own their own business, they can still be part of our support system.
Yeah, they can.
I call
Yeah.
people all the time.
Yeah, I have so many like acquaintances, right? We got our circles, we got our people, and it's okay to have a lot of them. And then we've got people that we know that we can always reach out to and be like, "Hey, I know this person for you."
Yeah. And I think also the important part too is that when they reach out, like when you reach out or some of my other colleagues reach out, like I don't feel like that I'm taken advantage of.
Mm.
There are some places, some providers or situations where people will be like, they really want to know a lot of things that I'm doing, but it's not knowing out of curiosity. It's a knowing because they want to do it too and aren't having respect for my time. So we have to be respectful of each other too. Like, are we asking each other? Do you have the capacity to have this conversation with me right now? Do you have the capacity to mentor in this? Or, if this question is a longer question, can I pay your consultation fee?
Yeah.
Right? That's part of supporting each other is that we show each other that not all compensation is financial, but it sure does help in a time when we're in the middle of, hell in a handbasket going on around us to have some financial security.
Yeah, absolutely. But also be open enough or be brave enough to ask those questions because
Yes.
a lot of times if we don't ask that question like hey let me pick your brain, right? Everyone wants to pick
Hmm.
your brain, especially when you're doing a lot of great things. But if you're going to pick my brain, like what exactly are you needing? Because I can give you the guide to everything you want, but that's going to cost you a little bit because that takes time, it takes strategy, it takes creation, planning, all of these things. And there's your coaching fee, your mentoring fee, right? Or if you just need to know, hey, Jeanette, where did you go to get this one thing? Oh, you go to this website and you just type in blah, 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 blah. Like, there's a big difference.
There is. And there's an energy exchange there. I know for me, oh my goodness, I'm so glad one of my friends helped me with this. I would trip out a little bit. Like I had little moments where I was like, whoa, because I constantly get these emails saying, like, hey, I just want to connect. Like, hey, I want to get good coffee. And at first I was like, oh, this is awesome. But it became exploitive because they're asking me to meet up and I hate it. Please, if y'all hear this, do not send me an email asking to connect. Use your words to tell me exactly what you need because I'm getting better at it, but not that great. Like, people like, hey, let's just connect. And I kind of go this tailspin of like, what do they need? What do they want? And I'm like, what I got to buff up on? What is the, and
What to prep for.
yeah. And truth is not a connection. Like usually I have the answer, but it was very stressful for me. And so I actually had one of my friends, I was kind of tripping out, and I was like, oh, this person wants to meet. I don't know what time it is. She was like, why don't you just ask her what she wants to connect about?
Asking the
But
right questions.
I was like, shut up with your common sense, okay? But it did feel like rude or uncomfortable at first to be like, hey, let's connect, and be like, how do I ask that? So I'm just like, hey, so that I know what's going on and how to budget time. Can you give me some information? What is this you want to connect about, right? And if they respond with either some, like you said, some longer needs, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad you reached out, but this is my website, this is the link, and please sign up for a consultation time and we can meet. But it really depends on what the need is. But it was really hard to start asking, like, what do you want to connect about? Like, what is it you're looking for from me? And before I did that, I was getting burnt out because I'm taking care of my clients. I'm taking care of the, those people who choose to trust me and work with me. And then I'm also fielding a million different emails from people I don't know. Or the reality of the matter is that I am quite personable. And when I am talking with somebody, I am listening and I am engaged. But when I walk away, unless I wrote it down or something, like I don't exactly remember every single conversation, who I've talked to. And so sometimes I made an impact and they wanted to reach out again. So when I'm asking like, hey, what's going on? There's a difference between needing me to do consultation for free, and just wanting to connect as a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the transparency is another thing that again, like we don't want conflict. We want to connect. We want these things, but yet we don't know how to voice it without the fear getting in the way. And so that's why these people like tiptoe around it instead of
Yep.
just saying what they want.
Yep. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't used to always take it as a compliment, but people always tell me that I'm very direct and that I'm blunt. And I don't honestly perceive myself as being like anything other than I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And I'll do a lot of clarifying questions because I'm like, we said we're going to do this and this and this at this time for this purpose, right? Yes. Okay. Just so we're clear, like this is what the intention, this is why we're doing these things, right? Okay. Just making sure because when there's uncertainty or we assume that somebody is on the same page as us or they know something, it just always led me to problems where I'm like, in my brain, this is how we're operating, how we're doing things. But I can't be mad at you for not knowing what's in my brain. I can be upset with you and set some very direct boundaries if I very clearly define this and now you chose to do what you wanted to do. That's a different situation. The responsibility in building relationship requires us to both take some risks on both ends, right? Or more than one end sometimes when it's, 5,000 people listening to the podcast, but
Yeah.
some authenticity and realness in that. I've had people tell me that my practice, our practice, I refer to our practice because it's the communities, but they're like, oh, you're doing this, yeah, that's so great. And I always remind them that that's what you see in the front. Yes, that's true. But, there was many nights where I stayed in bed, because I didn't want to get out of bed crying because I was stressed the hell out. Or, I'm sitting there freaking out because other people depend on me and rely on me. And today's not the day, And I think it's important that yes, do I consider myself a professional and then I run my business and all these other things, right? But I also screw up a lot.
Same. Yeah. We are human. And I think a lot of what we were talking about today is like the humanness of us. Like we all fail to embrace that peace. We fail to show that peace and communicate it and just be us?
And also, if we're receiving that from somebody else, like if someone else is being real and telling us their mistakes and everything else, it's also our responsibility to meet them with kindness. That like, it's okay that a kid ran in the middle of a recording. It's okay that a cat knocked the candle over and lit up the freaking curtain. Like, it's okay that you're pregnant and you might have to pee 7 times during the hour or whatever. We deserve to grant our other humans courtesies of kindness too.
Exactly. But we were taught not to. We
Right.
are taught that that makes us imperfect or that there's something wrong with us. But in reality, I kind of feel like we spend our entire life trying to get rid of all the things that we were taught when we came into this world so that we can live authentic, transparent lives.
Very, very true. And it requires us to be around other people who are willing to be vulnerable with us and to be real with us and to remind us of our value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. I think that even now we see it even more present, that there's this rhetoric out there that certain people are villainized or demonized for whatever reason, right? And I'm very direct. My practice is focused on liberation psychology, right? And so when we treat ourselves with abusive language and behaviors, it makes it so much easier to treat others that way, and vice versa. And so it really is a very intentional, lifelong practice to remember that tearing other people down does not bring you up in any way, shape, or form. You're just down in the muck and the mud too. If someone is doing something or has done something, they need to make a report. Okay. But if you're watching somebody do something and engage in behaviors, if it's wrong or it's something that is not necessary, they're going to be their own downfall.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be sitting there getting dirty with them and getting involved with that with them. We can walk away and let, that can unfold wherever it happens and stay with the community who is willing to upbuild each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I love that. So today we talked a lot about a bunch of different topics. We were blessed to have my little guy as a little surprise guest. And we went through a lot of things, right? What are, I guess, 3 things from everything we talked about that you want to give back to this community that's watching so that they remember how to live authentic?
Yeah. I think number one is to remember that it's a lifelong process, that this isn't something like, oh, I've mastered this and that's it. There's going to be continuous need to be intentional about how we think and how we, engage with each other.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is what my brain goes to, it always goes to, is that it is our honor and responsibility to uproot any internalized oppressive concepts that are not helpful for us. We don't have to walk around life all the time being ashamed or sad or angry or like we're not it's not human. So we can uproot these internalized oppressive concepts so that we're not living by them. And I think the third really is community. That it's fine and dandy to think about these things and to try to read books and educate ourselves. But what we're doing right now in community, whether they're listening online or they're watching, and we're talking live, that be in community with people and listen to people's true stories and lives and lived experience and learn from them and pass that knowledge on so that we can all learn from each other. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a burden placed on just one.
I love that. Those are good things to remember. Because I think with all life and whatever's around us, right, we tend to forget the important things and we get lost in what we think people want from us.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of distractions out there, right? A lot of distractions that disconnect us.
Now, if anybody watching this wants to get in touch with your business or you, how would they do that?
We have our website and it's monitored pretty well, but forgive me, I put the longest email website out there, but I love it. It's treeoflifecounselingcenter.org. It's fun to type out every time, but thank you for remembering that.
Google Tree of Life Counselor.
And not to be confused with some other Tree of Life in San Antonio doing some other stuff, but yes, treeoflifecounselingcenter.org is our website, and then we have our social media platforms that we put out a lot of information today. We talked a little bit on the platform about picking a therapist and some questions that need to be answered. We do some toxic masculinity training, some trainings for adolescents, for parents, things like that. So you can find us on social media and, follow everything that we put out there is the easiest way to find us.
Yeah, love that. I love you. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast.
Thank you for creating it.
Thank you. Yeah. But I just love to have you around me, period, anytime, because you are like a breath of fresh air because I don't have to worry about if I'm going to say something that's going to offend you. Because if I do, you will tell me right away, Jeanette, that was messed up.
Yes, I will. But it's nice to be around people that I even feel comfortable enough to say that. Like, amen. Okay.
Exactly. So here is our hope to you that you find your group of people that you feel comfortable being yourself with. So yes. Thanks everyone for listening and we will see you soon. Bye. Okay, I'm going to stop this.